depression is so prevalent in communities where they don't get a lot of sun, right? Because sun is very important to our health. In fact, I have been thinking about this a lot because, as you all know, we have a chicken now, and I've been doing a lot of research. So in order for chickens to lay eggs, or hens to lay eggs, they need about 16 hours of sun every day. And to me, that makes so much sense because, like chickens or like hens, we as women or femmes or womb having people, we also pass eggs on a cycle, right? And some of those eggs get fertilized and become babies, or in the hen's case, baby chicks. And the ones that don't get fertilized are protein and food. We also are providing creative ideas and nutrient-rich food, if you will, for our communities, for our families, for our loved ones, for our children, for our mothers, for our extended family and friends, and our network of other beings that are part of our lives. And so I think a lot of times we equate our value to whether or not we become mothers, right? Whether or not we become wives. And really, outside of those lenses, we are constantly creating ideas, frameworks, dreaming up things that we want, but maybe don't feel like we are worthy of, you know? I think I'm connecting the dots a lot right now between this hen and the way that our creation cycles work, right? Like, I've been doing a lot of integration of womb-centered entrepreneurship. So basically, like, working through my menstrual cycle. So taking a break when I'm bleed and allowing myself to be more active and creative when I'm ovulating, because that's when my creativity is at its peak, because my body is actively passing an egg, right? A potential life, a creation. And just because the egg doesn't get fertilized doesn't mean that it's invaluable, in the sense that it's not of value, right? But it actually shows us that there is value in our cycle, right? There's a reason for it. Many of us grew up feeling like we were cursed, right? We heard that a lot from the elders, like, oh, you got the curse, you know, or it's your time, it's your period, it's your I forget, there's a bunch of other like weird things people say to talk about their periods in a way that's very negative, right? And seeing like, how can we work with them, right? Instead of feeling like we're cursed, like, you know, this is our curse, is to bleed once a month. It's like, how can we reframe that? How can we rethink that and really connect with that part of ourselves that is full of life, you know, whether it is a potential child or whether it's that idea you have, that business you've been wanting to start, or that song you've been wanting to write, or that creative writing or poem, or whatever that looks like for you. Like, those are creations. And I'm really tired of seeing how like women and femmes their value is placed on whether or not they're mothers or parents or taking care of something, you know? What about the ones that are taking care of themselves? What about those of us who are putting ourselves first to make sure that we're doing what we love and we're not just floating by doing the shit that we're being told we should want, right? Our whole lives, which in most cases is marriage and a family. I think I'm really here to represent the folks who are trying to do things differently and taking our lead from ourselves, from our inner selves, from our highest selves, from the parts of us that believe and know that we have the answers inside of us. Our intuition guides us constantly, right? If we listen, if we trust it, if we have been affirmed by others that our intuition is worth trusting, right? But in most cases, as young people, we aren't given that that trust. We aren't told, oh, you have good ideas. Oh, that's a great idea. Or, yeah, we should do what you think because you think of good things. You know, a lot of kids are not encouraged in that way, unfortunately. And so that's why I'm here. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to help people return home to their own truths, and to be able to decipher between, oh my God, I love the song. To be able to decipher between what is my belief and what is a belief that someone has projected onto me because they were taught that as well. So it's a lot of like self-discovery, you know, and a lot of excavation of stories of like, wow, I've been believing this my whole life because someone told me I should, because someone told me to. And it takes a lot of courage and bravery, but that's why I build these communities, right? That's why I'm hosting the emotional release ceremony in a couple of weeks on April 29th. Check that out if you're interested. We're going to open in a ceremony, a circle. We're going to be calling in the parts of ourselves that I'm talking about, right? The parts of ourselves that know, like, deep down, this is who I am. And deep down, this is what's true for me. And let me release all of the blockages and all of the things that other people have told me that made me feel bad about that, you know, that made me feel unworthy. And I was talking about menstrual cycles and working and creating. That leads me to share that I'm working on a campaign right now in partnership with Planned Parenthood and Latinx Parenting, who I work for part-time. We are doing a campaign on this program called Sex Ed to Go. It's basically an online sex education program. And I'm really curious to know what y'all think of this, because I know for me, like, sex ed was very lacking. At home and in school. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, so you can just imagine how much they taught us about sex outside of like, don't do it, and you can't have sex until you're married, and just don't do it. Just don't do it. And that's about it. So I'm really excited about sharing this program. I think it's a really great place for folks to start. Especially if you're trying to raise a child in a sex-positive household, which basically just means that you are trying to raise them in a way that does not shame being a sexual being. We're all sexual beings. We were all born naked. Before we were given clothing, we never knew in our consciousness that there's anything wrong with being naked. I still don't think there is anything wrong with being naked. It's just our society's way of controlling our bodies and our autonomy. And then, you know, as you know, like, we have certain social situations where clothes are necessary. But outside of like nakedness, right, there's like all of these other things that are lacking in our sex education. There's also a great module in this program on relationships and dating, and it's all broken down by age groups. I believe it's 4th grade up, which I personally would like to see more sex education before that, because I don't think it's fair to tell kids like, oh, you're not ready to learn about your body, you know, until 4th grade. Like, we should be teaching our children as early as changing their diaper that this is your penis, this is your vagina, this is your vulva, and also you know, starting to integrate consent with children as early as they're born, because that's another big part of sex education, is learning consent. What does it mean to say yes? What does it mean to say no? How do you say no? How do you say yes? How do you receive a no and be able to deal with it? You know, these are really valuable skills that a lot of children do not learn, and by the time we try to teach them, they've already learned their own ideas about consent, because again, since they were babies, someone has been touching their body, making decisions about their body, whether it's what clothes they're wearing or when they're going to get their shots. And so it's a bigger deal than just offering, you know, a health class or something, as many of us were taught. And then also there's a component of that This program is actually for students, parents, and teachers. And so if you're a parent and you're wanting to know, like, well, what is my kid learning in this program? You know, you can log in, you can check it out, you can choose certain classes that they see and that they don't see. The main points of this program are body literacy. So that means learning the proper terms, the anatomical terms, and their function, right, of the different body parts, reproductive or sex organs. And then also just getting a better understanding of what our bodies do, right? So why do we menstruate every month? Believe it or not, a lot of adults don't even know why this happens or how it works. As a childbirth educator, I cannot tell you how many times my own clients who are already pregnant don't even know how it happened. They don't understand how the menstrual cycle worked and why they were able to get pregnant when they did. So this is critical, you know, because we have people, adults who are raising children who also don't know this information, and I'm trying to hopefully avoid raising another generation of people who are disconnected from their bodies, who are ashamed of their sexuality, ashamed of their bodies, and also not fully activating their pleasure because of that shame, right? The shame is the perfect blockage to pleasure. It completely shuts down the pleasure sensation. So yeah, we're trying to raise awareness around sex education to help destigmatize the topic of sex and bring it to families and schools and households across the world who are wanting more information, more comprehensive sex education, which, as we know, results in fewer unwanted pregnancies. If a lot of people think that if you empower children or young people with information about sex, that it's just going to make them do it. And I completely disagree, because I think they're going to do it anyway. When young people are curious, when they're hormonally driven and they want to learn something, they will figure it out. And I would much rather have children who know what they're doing than kids who don't know what they're doing, don't know how to be safe, don't know how to look out for warning signs, or pick, good partners and risk them getting hurt. So anyway, I'm really excited to share about that. I'm going to be submitting my content this week to the team at Planned Parenthood, and I'm working with our team at Latinx Parenting to make that happen. So y'all will see that over on their page. So check that out. If you ask me, baby, I'll get on my knees and pray, boy.